Hello, everyone. Welcome back to the Block Party, the collective intelligence block party, where we're figuring it all out. How do we talk with each other and how do we co-create the more beautiful world that our hearts know is possible, to paraphrase Charles Eisenstein? So with that, let's start with, um, I love that Jordan uses one of my favorite words, telos, the aim. What is our telos? Well, let's just start with a concept of a whole world, a world that works, a world that's holistically whole and beautiful and caring for all, not just all humans, but all species. And that begs the question, what does our world need to be whole? And this will be the start of the seed, the germination point for something I refer to as a teleological taxonomy, a taxonomy with a telos, with an aim. So the aim is whole world. So how do we get there? Well, there's a lot of ways that we could break it down. And in fact, there is no one way, much less a best way to break it all down. Here is one way. We could say, well, we need wholeness for people and wholeness for the planet. And the way I think of this is, of course, we're part of the planet. We're not separate. But just like if I were sitting in an airplane with my mom next to me, and there's a sudden loss in cabin pressure, as much as I love my mother and want to put her oxygen mask on first, I also need to follow the very important direction of put my own oxygen mask on first. Humanity needs to figure out its own oxygen mask, I believe, before we can really be effective at taking care of Mother Earth and her oxygen mask. So, hence, people and planet, two oxygen masks. Well, what do people need and what does the planet need? And so these become subtopics. So if the topic is whole world, the subtopics are people and planet. The subtopics are the bullets you see underneath those. For people, we have physical needs. We also have higher needs. For the planet needs clean air, water, land, ecosystems, species. We need to check all these check boxes, whatever solutions we come up with, right? So I'll drill into one of those, food. So wholeness for people, well, food. And again, there is no one way to break it down. This has actually been proven both philosophically, thank you, Derrida, and empirically on numerous occasions. So this is one slice of the kaleidoscope, breaking down food. Well, we could do it by geography, we could do it by type of community, rural versus urban, et cetera, and so on and so forth. And then this can expand. It's if you think of these as leaf nodes, break it all down to leaf nodes that are actually actionable. There's no end to it. So I just wanted to give a brief kind of overview of that in terms of looking at things from a taxonomy. There's a little bit more colorful view that I'll show in a moment here, which is a topical kind of view. And this is just yet another slice at a taxonomy, or the beginnings of a teleological taxonomy. We could take the perspective of, okay, problem, solution. What are the roots of our problems, and therefore what solutions do we need? So if you think of this, look at it in layers. Each of these horizontal layers is a different kind of like an archaeological dig for the truth and for solutions. And on the left side, this left column here are kind of the headings for each horizontal layer. So here we have root causes, and then here to the right of that, we have all these different root causes, et cetera, et cetera. So what are the root causes of our problems? Well, we could say, is it us? Is it our evolutionary history? Is it totalitarian agriculture? Thank you, Daniel Quinn, in his great books from the 1990s, Ishmael, Story of B, notably. Is it separation? Well, did that in turn come from totalitarian agriculture? No, there are these dark forces in shadow that we need to get into. Anyway, these are all topics, and you can imagine, therefore, subtopics and subtopics like we were looking at. We can look at our problems, chronic world problems. We can look at acute problems, and we can look at solutions. Big problems call for big solutions. These are definitely big problems, and so we need big solutions. Economic and political transformation. Ananda, you're experimenting with economic transformation, creating a local economy and transforming it, everything from food production to manufacturing. Veganism is a mega solution. We're a species that runs on stories. We need a new story for humanity. That's a mega solution. We need solutions for the coronavirus. We need solutions to cool the planet, like solar radiation management, on. And Meta Solution, of course, is the goose that lays the golden eggs of all these beautiful solutions. Collective superintelligence that's what we're co-creating right here, right now. We're figuring this out. We are on the journey to collective superintelligence. So anyway, just wanted to give some images there. Now, operationally, how are we making all this happen? So one is we have this big mega Friday, Saturday, 24-hour collective intelligence block party that we're in the midst of right now. You are here, and this is the 24-hour collective intelligence block party. Happens every Friday, Saturday. We likewise have every Thursday, the press conference that we were talking about earlier. Let me just screen share that really quickly, because one of the ideas that we have here is, rather than do a top down and say, hey, here's how the taxonomy should look like, here are the topics we should focus on, and you go there and you go there, and this is number one priority, this is number two. Again, that's impossible to impose upon humanity. You can try to impose it, but it simply won't work, is our experience. So instead, we're taking a very sociocratic, democratic approach and saying, look, since people are going to do whatever they want to do anyway, why don't we empower them with more choices, and empower them to share what they're doing with the rest of the community, so that people can go where they want to go and participate in whatever conversations they want. Hence the press conference. So thepressconference.org. I like this image that one of our colleagues came up with, which is, the world in conversation, not a single conversation, but a whole universe of conversations, right? And which of course can cluster around certain, major topic areas, et cetera. So every Thursday, and we do this, and here's the very first one, which was the biggest one that we did, because we had weeks to organize it. And then we've been in essentially development mode since then. So if you go to the homepage of thepressconference.org, you can see all the different presentations that happened over the course of the day, which were dozens of them. And we're kind of gravitating towards a model of 5 minutes each. You can peruse this whenever you want, but topics ranging from social to environmental, political, economic, agriculture, permaculture, cooling the planet, new platforms, saving the Amazon, Togetherland is a super cool one. Anyway, they're all really cool. There's just amazing stuff going on all over the place. So the big idea of the press conference is every Thursday around 50 to 100 people present for 2 to 5 minutes each, and say, here's what we're doing, here's the conversation that we're having, and I'd like to invite you to join me in this conversation. And we have a week, a recurring open house. Could be weekly, monthly, bi-weekly, daily, whatever. But join us at our open house, when the world is welcome to join us in conversation about this. All week long, we're working on XYZ, and once a week, we open our doors for you to come in, the world to come in and join us in conversation. So the world in conversation. So if you imagine the press conference, the weekly press conference, as like this fire hose that is just generating all these 2 to 5 minute concentrated tidbits, little teasers, little samples, if you will, that then point to a recurring open house that the world can then join. If that's a fire hose, now let's talk about the Olympic-sized swimming pool that's going to capture all that water, right? And that is what is that we're in the process of developing. Once we get our basic systems down for the press conference, all that will land in this thing that doesn't exist yet, but it's called Snack Bar, which stands for the Social Network of Actual Conversations. Like the one we're having right now. This is an actual conversation. We're actually listening to each other. We're talking to each other. And then imagine that some form of a teleological taxonomy of topics, like what I showed earlier on the screen, you're able to see all the different conversations and their open houses and their recorded presentations, all organized by major topic, subtopic, sub-subtopic, as you explode the teleological taxonomy. And really, you're able to search, browse, and explore and see different conversations and watch the 2 to 5 minute presentation for a given conversation that happened at the press conference so that you get a nice, efficient, compact sample. You get a free sample, so because the reality is, until we get this thing figured out called how do we talk with each other? How do we co-create? How do we listen to each other? How do we talk with each other? Until that's as figured out as algebra, right? We're still kind of in the Stone Age. And while we're in the Stone Age, you have different Stone Age tribes that do it differently, right? Some Stone Age tribes are very structured, and each person gets to talk for 2 minutes and others are just free flowing. Hey, just show up and we'll just talk and figure it out. And so they have different models and different cultures, and yes, different teloi, different teloses, if you prefer, different goals. Different communities have different goals. They're focused on different things. And so the big idea here is that with Snack Bar, just like the name sounds, there's different stuff there. There's different stuff you can snack on, different conversations you can jump into and engage in. But with Snack Bar, we have free samples for everything, quick little 2-minute bites, and you get the idea. And then you can basically, at a glance, you can say, this is a group I can come and hang with. I like them. This other one, nah, they're too technical, or this other one's too capitalistic, or this other one's too religious, or this other one's too spiritual, or this other one's just too boring, or this other one's too high energy. I don't want to get burned out on that. Whatever. Sample around, snack around, and find your place. And guess what? If you don't find your place there and you're saying, dang it, why aren't people talking about organic, vegan, intentional communities? Guess what? You can show up at the press conference and create it. If you don't find your place there, create it and then invite the world to join you. Well, I don't want the world coming at me 24/7. Okay, fine. Have an open house once a month if you want. And then, but at some point, open your doors and let people come in and share. And then you can always do whatever filtering you want out of your open house experience. 20 people can come and you might say, hey, out of those 20, there's only 2 that I really want to invite me to come and collaborate in my private invite only meetings. Go for it. And so there's so many different ways that we can slice it. So what we're essentially doing is saying, listen, we don't have the answer as to how people should talk with each other and what they should focus on and anything like that. And we believe no one else does either. But what we do believe is that through a whole essentially free market, not a financial market, but a free market of ideas, of conversations, of open houses, right? Of projects, of solutions, of philosophies, through a free market, people can explore around and find where they want to locate, where they want to land, and where they want to set up shop conversationally, what conversations they want to participate in. And it's okay to be polyamorous. It's okay to go around from conversation to conversation and, hang out here and then hang out there and hang out wherever you want. And it's okay to create your own open houses, plural. You can create as many open houses as you want. As that you've got bandwidth for. Just make sure you show up, because if you schedule an open house and then you don't show up to host it, you'll get delisted, right? So don't be the boy who cried wolf. If you're going to schedule an open house, please show up. And so in a nutshell, this is our idea: is create, kind of a perfect marketplace for ideas and conversations that will, some of which will lead to actual projects, right? some of which are created as projects in the first place. Hey, we're here to get this thing done, right? We're not here to philosophize. We're not here to just go, yeah. No, we're here to get this objective. Okay, fine, go for it. Like I said, different conversations, different communities, different open houses will have different philosophies, different foci, different objectives, different teloses, aims, goals, missions, and how they want to get there, right? And Marco has something to say. For example, Marco.
And it's perfectly acceptable if you presented at last week's press conference and your group is met and it took a little different tack than you wanted, come back to the next press conference and update us. Perfectly acceptable.
That's right. That's right. And for that matter, as far as open houses go, you don't have, you can do an open house that's just a one-time event and say, look, hey, everybody, I'm here at the press conference. I'm going to talk to you about for 5 minutes about this idea I have. If you like the idea and you want to talk with me about it, show up at my open house that we're going to have in a couple of weeks, and we're going to spend 4 hours on this experiment. And if it works, you know what? I'll come back to the press conference and give an update and say, you know what, that went so well that we're now going to do this as a series for the next 8 weeks. We're going to meet once a week for 2 hours and we're going to talk more about it. And at the end of that 8 weeks series, if that goes super well, come back and give another update at the press conference. We're now doing an indefinite series. We're going to meet every week indefinitely until we have ended hunger or achieved world peace or transformed the mode of production of the economy of this intentional community or whatever, right? Again, whatever your goal is, whatever your objective. So that's kind of the big idea. And then, of course, in parallel with having such, structured things as press conferences, open houses, snack bar with all the different entries, a universal calendar with all the different upcoming open houses, et cetera, et cetera. In addition to that, we have these institutions like the Block Party, where you can just show up and talk about whatever with whoever else is there. And so that's another thing that we do. On Tuesdays, we have the Solution Club. This is all in the same Zoom channel, by the way, the same Zoom channel that got you right here. Same Zoom room, we're going to call it almost 24/7. You've heard of the show Almost Live. Well, we're almost 24/7. And the big tent that's the 24/7 tent is called The Conversation, theconversation.cc. So that's what we're doing in this virtual intentional community here in the clouds. Join us and help us co-create it and be a part of it, and et cetera, et cetera. So that's kind of it in a nutshell. Questions? Yes, Ananda.
Yeah, when we'll be able to see a calendar of all the existing open houses we might want to jump in on?
My best guess would be probably in about 3 weeks. We're working on it, and we just got to keep at it. I'm trying to focus on that, but the thing is, I also end up in a lot of these long Zoom meetings myself. And I have a family, and I have, baby crows to take care of in the backyard, and just a lot going on. So, but I am getting some good help, and more help is welcome, and we're working on it. So in about 3 weeks, I would guesstimate. Mm-hmm.
Mm-hmm. Wow, perfect timing, because we're all here in the global brain getting all ready.
Exactly. And so, we don't, I mean, we're trying to create a bunch of this infrastructure. We're building it to kind of help it all flow. But at the same time, there's so many groups out there working on so many different things. That's the reason we created the Block Party, the Collective Intelligence Block Party, is as an open invitation to the world. If you're doing something related to collective intelligence and you want to share it and you want to talk about it and get participation, come here. and just show up. And so this is kind of a very relatively unstructured, big 24-hour event. And then of course the press conference, snack bar, open houses, universal calendar, those are much more structured, etc. Yes, Ananda.
Are you familiar with The Pulse by David Winter? He's a Brit, and he put together an amazing what I might say database list of all of the change-making organizations, The Pulse. It's a very well designed, and I highly recommend people go there.
Love it, love it, love it. You know, there've been a small number of efforts to do that kind of thing, which I think is super crucial, super important. Our particular spin on it is a very conversational spin. So it's like, for example, I would invite everyone on that database to come and present at the press conference. Let us know what you're doing. You're a change-making organization? Great. Come tell us about yourself in 5 minutes, right? And that turns out to be a very appealing offering, right? That you can show up and present for 5 minutes to the world, and the world listens, and then more people can come and show up at your thing, whatever you invite them to, your organization, your open house, whatever. And so we're really on fire about getting the different neurons within the global brain connected by synapses, right? And you know, facilitating these synaptic connections. And that's what Snack Bar and the Universal Calendar and the press conference are all about, right? The press conference lets the synapses fire and, you know, kind of create a little wireless message that can go out to the other, to the neurons rather. It lets the neurons fire so that other neurons can hear it and get the signal. And then whenever you go to an open house, you're creating a synaptic connection between yourself and that other cluster of neurons, whoever else is at the open house. That's the idea. Let's get connected. And then as we get connected, we can then start thinking together, talking together. And that's the global brain right there. It's all these intentional communities and intentional conversations talking with each other and cross-pollinating. People like bumblebees going from flower to flower, conversation to conversation, community to community, change-making organization to change-making organization. The people are the bumblebees. The conversations and organizations and communities are the flowers, and people go from flower to flower. That's how we get connected. Yeah.
That's awesome. I didn't know if I was on mute or not, but yeah, that's beautiful. How many people are involved in this process so far?
So if you were to take a head count of all the people who come and go and participate, we're probably, I don't know, 1,000 people or so. But at any given time, you know, there might be a couple dozen, or in this case, half a dozen right now, or 4 of us, I think, at the moment. Mm-hmm. And so, and we went for several weeks there, up in, you know, from like September through November, where this Zoom room didn't go dark once for several weeks on end. We were 24/7 for several weeks. Thank you, Marco. Thank you, Christopher. Thanks to so many folks who really, you know, put in the time. And so with the systems that we're talking about and with the calendar that we're talking about, I think we can really turn this from a little, you know, campground to a thriving city in the clouds of you know, hundreds, thousands of conversations happening every week on myriad different topics. And we want for this Zoom room to be this, right now we call it the campfire, but we really want it to evolve into this grand central station so people can show up and it's like, hey, what's this all about? Well, go to breakout room 1, and that's where, you know, there's an ongoing introduction to what this is all about, staffed by volunteers. And, you know, here's the menu of what's going on right now in the different breakout rooms. Here's the universal calendar, so you can see what's happening, not just now, but at any time in the future, and so on and so forth.
Well, thank you for you and all the other people behind you that have been putting this together. This is very, very awesome. I'm going to put my my flag up here just because I know this is being recorded, and hopefully we can get this program on Future Now Radio. So this is Ananda Elise Reeves with Future Now Radio, and we're speaking with Jamin Shively, kind of the founder of the community conversation.cc org .cc. So it's a global vision, and it's happening here and now, and we're just so grateful for all of the people that's making that happen. So thank you.
Beautiful. Thank you, Ananda. So glad.
Yeah, that was an interview I didn't have to schedule. That was pretty cool. I've got a great editor that I can say, hey, chop this part out. In fact, I'll say that right now. Say, editor, chop this part out. Just cut it off after the announcement of Future Now Radio. We'll find that. And so he he follows along, and I'll know whenever to tell him this. Oh, I coughed or I sneezed. Edit that.
Yeah. Wow.
So how can I get that recording we just did?
Yeah, let me. So this is one of the things that needs to be better organized, but I will upload these recordings over the course of the weekend to my YouTube channel.
Oh, okay.
And let me just give you one of the let me just put a link to one of the recordings on my YouTube channel so that you can,
The Tesla truck.
No, I'm going to do the latest one on exponential global warming and its solution. So here's a video on my YouTube channel. From that, you can find my channel and the various recordings uploaded there too.
All righty. Now, I have tried to save these.
Chats, can I tell you how to do it?
Yeah, please.